Oh, good evening, everyone. And I want to start off by saying that Susan this week lost her aunt, Roberta Hagar, on Monday. And for Susan, it's quite Friday, sorry. For Susan, it's quite a loss in that, you know, most of her life, Roberta and Susan have been very, very close. And she's in the transition phase right now. So this meditation, when we are meditating, you cast your mind a bit on the transition that Roberta is making presently from this physical world into the astral plane, and communicate with her in your own way by just sending your thoughts in her transition period, because we're all gonna face the same thing. Most of us are not getting out alive, and that's just a fact of life. So this full moon is in the Libra season, which is the time period of September 22nd to October 22nd. And from a perspective of intuitives, it is a time to nurture our most important one-on-one relationships. This air sign is ruled by Venus, the planet of love and beauty. And it rules the 7th house of partnership. This full moon occurs in the opposite sign of Aries, so the opposite to Libra. And Aries is all about winning. This moon acts as your emotional compass, ruling over your sense of intuition and sense of security. These themes are amplified when the moon is most full and luminous. This is known as the hunter moon, because the indigenous people saw it as the moon, as the sign to gather meat for the winter. So it's a very auspicious time, as we all know, as we're going through enormous changes, as we're going through this purification that's occurring on the Mother Earth. And as the intensity ratchets up, the need for us to go inward, the need for us to go inward and upward is essentially the sense of the time for us. So this evening's meditation, I've chosen an excerpt from the Rubaiyat by Omar Khayyam, but this is an interpretation by Paramahansa Yogananda. And so Yogananda wrote essentially his interpretation of the quatrains that were essentially spoken by the prophet. And so I'm going to read to you number 5, which will be the theme, if you will, for our meditation. And this is the quatrain. Iram indeed is gone with all its rose, and Jamshid's 7-ringed cup where no one knows. But still the vine her ancient ruby yields, and still a garden by the water blows. So the meanings of these certain words: Iram depicts the outward or sense conscious state of man's mind and life. The rose is temporary sense pleasures. Jamshid, the soul's kingly consciousness of infinity. The 7-ringed cup is the cerebral spinal receptacle with its 7 ring-like centers of consciousness and life. Through these 7 plexuses, the soul's life and consciousness descend from spirit into the limitations of the body and must ultimately ascend into the freedom of the infinite. Yogic treatises define the 7 spiritual centers as chakras, the petals of which radiate life and consciousness of the body. The soul, the supreme spirit, life, and consciousness in man, resides in the highest of these centers, in the cerebrum, in cosmic consciousness. As the soul's consciousness and life descend into the spine and out from the chakras into the physical body and senses, its perceptions become increasingly grosser until ultimately in the sense conscious state, the soul as ego is wholly identified with the circumscribing physical form and its limited modes of perception and expression. Spiritual enlightenment consists in withdrawing the consciousness from the grosser states of perception to the higher spiritual centers in the spine and brain. The effect is self-realization, or realization of the true self as soul, made in the image of God, with all his divine qualities, reigning supreme in joy and wisdom over the kingdom of the body, as well as over the heavenly kingdom within. Back to the quatrain meanings. Where no one knows, the average person is unaware of the existence of the spinal centers and of their spiritual significance. The vine refers to the soul. The ancient ruby refers to the age-old soul bliss, or the fruit or ruby grapes of the soul vine. And garden is self-realization blooming with spiritual qualities. And water relates to wisdom. And this is the spiritual interpretation of this quatrain. When in deep meditation, man withdraws his outward consciousness, there goes with it all the rose or pleasure associated with the senses and their desires. Yet the kingly soul consciousness of infinity remains, engrossed within, quaffing the blissful divine consciousness from the cerebral spinal cup, whose 7 rings are secreted from mortal gaze and unknown to ordinary consciousness. Unmindful of the absence of sense pleasures, such a man beholds an enthralling inner garden of spirit, blossoming with fragrant soul qualities and sparkling with ever-flowing waters of wisdom. From the soul vine, he plucks ruby grapes of self-realization, reveling in their sweet taste of age-old, ever-new bliss. And here is its practical application. By deep yoga meditation, transfer the soul's consciousness from fleshy sense pleasures to the inner spiritual perceptions of the 7 cerebral spinal centers. Therein, the soul intuitionally experiences the intoxicating joy of self-realization. In the outer sense garden grow perfumed blossoms of short-lived pleasures, but in the inner garden of consciousness, the soul secretly nurtures flowering qualities whose fragrant joy never fades. Earthly blossoms brighten man's mind for a while, but the pearls of soul pleasures inspire eternally. All the pomp and power of man's kingdom of life may fade away, and all receptacles and instruments of kingly pleasures may be taken from him, yet he can always find happiness when he roams by the healing waters of wisdom and understanding in the garden of soul bliss. Often, when persons fall from a state of plenty into poverty, or from success to failure, They sink in utter despair, seeing nothing to cling to. Some become so despondent they are unable to find contentment in anything. Failure cripples the subtle imagination of hope for future success. But by wisdom and discrimination, man can learn that happiness is not dependent on external circumstances. Rather, it is to be found in the simpler joys of life, and most of all, in the ever-new bliss of deep meditation. Though destiny wrests away all earthly pleasures, man can still be happy by clinging to the simple, true, and lasting soul joys. They come by deep thinking, introspection, spiritual inspiration, and meditation. Gather, therefore, not only wholesome joys from the garden of material life, learn also with your loved ones to wander in the garden of meditation and self-realization, and there gather the joy everlasting. And so in this meditation this evening, which we will do for 20 minutes to 25 minutes, what I would like for us to do is to concentrate on the mantra, Om Mani Padme Um, which means you are the jewel in the lotus. So if you can put in your mind's eye the symbol of the lotus and visualize yourself sitting in the middle of the lotus with the jewel, and you become the jewel, is the essence of this meditation. I will begin with the Om Mani Padme Um mantra, and I will end with the Om Mani Padme Um mantra, and then I will say the mantra of unification. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 The mantra of unification. The sons and daughters of men and women are one, and I am one with them. I seek to love, not hate. I seek to serve and not exact due service. I seek to heal, not hurt. Let pain bring due reward of light and love. Let the soul control the outer form and life and all events, and bring to light the love which underlies the happenings of the time. Let vision come and insight. Let the future stand revealed. Let inner union demonstrate and outer cleavages be gone. Let love prevail. Let all humanity love. Me, Wetch.